Hello, everyone, and welcome to the post-match recap of Liverpool versus Brighton at Anfield. I was so excited to get to this damn thing. I realized I put the names wrong in the title, but we'll edit that after. But what doesn't need editing is that second half. But you can't talk about the positives of the second half without addressing some of the first half and what we saw. So before we get into it, just quick housekeeping reminder to everybody. This is interactive. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook, feel free to leave a comment. As we see fit, we will bring them up on screen, comment on them. So basically what I'm telling you is if you agree with what I'm saying, the host, it'll probably get read. If you disagree, it may not. Just kidding. The best way to get on our shows is to insult the guests, as people have learned over time. But let's take a look here. To start, how Liverpool set up. I don't think there was much of a question. I wasn't able to listen to all of the pre-match show. I know you were both on with Maka. I think you were totally in favor of this starting 11, Sir Z. You saw Tsimikas taking his opportunity, getting an opportunity, and felt like he deserved it. What were your thoughts after watching that first half? Do you think the manager got anything wrong in either the setup or how he put out his Liverpool side today with who he had available to him? We'll start there.
No, I think on paper, I think that's the team that everyone picked, and I think that's the team that everyone was going for. So no, definitely not. I think the lineup before kickoff was what everyone wanted. I think it was a perfect lineup to pick. Obviously, it didn't pan out that way playing the game, but that wasn't on Slot. That was on the players. And Tsimikas, I'm so glad he had a great game. And Nunes too. I don't remember Tsimikas putting a foot wrong in that game. And Nunes, for all his detractors, he had a really good game today as well.
Speaking of someone who sometimes has a detractor or two for a defender, let's bring in the leader in the clubhouse for taking pot shots at both the left back and nowadays the right back at the club. I was going to double curse you out today because not only did I think to myself, here is a guy who deep down in his heart is watching that goal as it happens, still pissed at Trent being on the back foot and just watching another player walk into the box and not closing guys down, then seeing the little deflection that takes the ball past the cast, and then, the goal getting scored. And then I noticed it's your fucking Turkish little boyfriend. Goal. And I almost was like, bleep him, bleep this. But it all got, it washed itself out. So I'll come to you here before we go back to Shelton. The first half, we're focusing there. I asked about the manager getting it wrong. Did you think the manager either got it wrong from a lineup standpoint, a tactic standpoint, or were the players in the midfield just not doing a job in the first half and therefore made everybody, it just looked like we were Swiss cheese and they were just running right through us?
I personally think it's the latter. I mean, when I saw the lineup, I didn't have a problem with it. I was like, okay. I mean, to me, it was Gakpo over Diaz. It's like, okay, that's fine because, Gakpo is in form and we see him. And then he's in form against Brighton. That kind of like gives the player confidence where I know it's like totally different players we're facing for the most part, but still gives a player confidence after what he did last game. So I had no problem with the lineup. I think anybody like going back and criticizing it is, I don't know how many people had that was the only choice, right? Like, Costas, I don't think a lot of arguments. It is what it is kind of a thing. And maybe we saw it coming, but I think it was just more the performance, like in midfield, especially. We just could not hang on to the ball. Mac was like poor overall and just gets physically beaten so much. It feels like I thought Gravenberch was decent, but we just could not hang on to the ball. And I go back to that's where I kept going off on Trent at times in games because, let's just keep the ball. That's the game. We keep possession and we were just giving it away. It was so freaking sloppy in midfield. But yeah, I don't think I personally didn't have a problem with the lineup. It was more the performance than like tactic. But you have said something at halftime because there was definitely more initiative and aggression in the second half.
It's like Beetlejuice. You say Gravenberch's name, and John's comments just miraculously appear on screen. Afternoon boys from a sleepy Hollow, New York, nearly fell off the hiking trail celebrating the goals. What a win. Well, I will say, I thought Gravenberch was okay and probably the best of the bunch, especially in the first half. But that wasn't saying much because I don't think you could have. We haven't, outside of maybe that 45-minute performance against Wolves, I'm not sure we've seen that level of sloppiness from McAllister. You would think that this was coming off of not only an international trip, but one where they also played in Japan and flew back to Argentina before coming to Liverpool to play the match, because he looked like he was dead from the first whistle. I do think that's a concern for this team moving forward. Let's not have it be today's show where we do the doom and gloom about who's going to replace the players leaving or what players we need to buy. We'll have plenty of time to not talk about transfers on the programs that we host here. But I just feel like today's match was such a good experience. Brian, before we get into that second half, first half performance for you, outside of maybe Gakpo, did anyone else really show themselves very well?
I thought Simicast did. I agree with what Sir Z said. I thought Simicast had a great game. I don't think that really was the goal was anything having to do with his fault. I think, but I think that he maintained himself well. He came there and got tracked back well. I think that his communication with Gakpo is a lot better than with Diaz. I think that they're kind of a little bit more on sync with each other. And, I think that he was overall, continuing on to the second half. I think that, easily Simicast was probably up there on the list of the best players that we had today.
Ryan jumps in with a very good day for us Reds. A win plus an Arsenal, City, and Everton losses. And, I don't know anyone. I think you can always make an argument for going to St. James's Park. It can be a banana skin type of a performance, a tough place to play. Your supporters are literally like almost in Wales, forced to sit up in like the top level of that, cavern of a stand. So I do think it can be difficult going to Bournemouth, though, and dropping points before we get to the positives of our second half. Because I do think that our tones would be so much different right now had we dropped some points, even just drew that match today after seeing City lose. Demetri, I'll come to you on this one. Bournemouth has done a good job and has, they beat Arsenal earlier. They've put in some performances this year. Is this City just struggling through not having De Bruyne and having a creative force to create the opportunities for Haaland? Or are we starting to see some of the cracks in the armor here at City that we might be able to exploit, and other teams are as well?
Yeah, here's the thing. Going away in the Premier League is always tricky, right? You see it today. Newcastle, there's certain places that are more maybe difficult than others, but it's always tough going away. City was always good enough, though, to find a way to win in those games. I just don't think they have that anymore, and I don't even know if they're in the realization of it, because not having Rodri totally destroys the whole thing, I think. But I want to say, and I just heard right before I came up, that De Bruyne was on the bench, but never got in the game. So he never was put in. When they lose midweek, everybody's like, oh, they just, gave up the cup and they're going to focus on that. I don't think so. I just don't think this team is as good as they were. And without Rodri, we saw last year, even when they were good, that when you take Rodri out of that equation, they really, really struggle. And Bournemouth away, that was, when we went to the Premier League panel show, that was Tonali's picks. That's what we went with, as an upsets that could happen this week. I just think City is not as good. That's why I hate to say it, even when it was 1-0 and they were losing, I think it was 1-0 still.
Mm-hmm.
I was more like, even a draw, man. Let's at least get a draw. Let's get a point, and then we'll be top of the league and stuff like that. But the way it turned out, you couldn't ask for a better scenario. And I think we're living in a season where you cannot say City will definitely get the 3 points. Perhaps, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm too excited, but perhaps.
I agree, and I think when you look at it, you are right. De Bruyne didn't get on. Neither did Savinho, who also made the bench after an injury scare midweek. it is crazy when players go off in full tears on a stretcher midweek and somehow miraculously make the bench on the weekend. Like, that is a little much.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, it's just a little much. Now, it could have also been a little bit of, cat and mouse games with, similar to what Arteta's been doing. At the same time, I don't think coaches like to talk about players having injuries because it just builds in excuses unless there really is something going on. So, like, a lot of times when we do the whole, like, oh, you're just saying that and Saka was never going to miss. I mean, he missed the Champions League match. It obviously was an important enough injury. I do think that they'll have to monitor that as time goes on, but injuries happen to everybody, but probably not to anyone as important as Rodri. Let's get shifted back to our match. It's halftime. We're down 1-0. Sir Z, exactly where was the birthday blood pressure at halftime of this match?
My wife's supposed to be taking me out. I told us to cancel the plans. I thought, okay. Halftime, I changed my shirt. My wife's like, why are you changing your Liverpool shirt from one to another? I was like, I'm just a superstitious arsehole. You should know that by now.
They just don't get it, do they?
Oh, they don't. And she's been married to me 16 years. She knows, like, when it comes to Liverpool, I'm superstitious. I'll sit upside down sometimes if I have to, like, whatever it takes. I must have changed like 40 different positions, like, and we won. So, yeah, so it's all good. And I just knew, like, I just had that feeling Arsenal lost today. City are losing. It's going to be typical Liverpool. We're not going to take advantage. And it just feels like, I think Timuchin was saying last season how this City team doesn't seem like they used to be. And, I think they got away with it last season because Arsenal bottled it. And, our injury has obviously caught up with us. And I think this City team is what we Liverpool fans saw with our team, where it's starting to run its course, and they don't have enough replacements for the top quality players, like Rodri being missing. And today just feels like that season when we won the league, when we came back from losing to Villa, and we came back and won 2-1, and it's just very reminiscent of that day.
So, Tim, I'm going to go to you on that one. There was a lot of chatter in our Discord over the summer, even when the great start happened, right? Like, it was, let's pump the brakes, give this time. And I think it was Bickler at one point was like, isn't it great, this 2-0 leads and seeing out professional games? But what will the manager be? What does this tactics look like when we need a goal? And in the last few matches, obviously, and recently we have fallen behind a few times. Are you starting to believe that the manager, his tactics, his plan, that there is a way for them to change? They can clearly alter how they play. You feel more comfortable playing from behind. I'm not saying let's start every game down 1-0.
That's never going to happen.
But do you feel more comfortable in this team now that you're starting to see not only them make changes with players, but also changes based on the tactics and the need of a match at times?
I'll be honest. I was more concerned about not the team, but how the fans would. I remember like talking about this early in the season. I remember like I think it was with like Shelton too. When we're at Anfield and we're 1 down and we're playing this calm possession game, are we going to start hearing rumblings and trying to actually push the team forwards, even though we want to go like systematically and attack that way? And I think that's been like the nice thing is. To be honest, I don't even know if he's changed a lot tactically when we go attacking. I think the personnel changes. I mean, like, obviously we had all 4 out there, and you could see like the moment we took the lead, we went back to the default settings. Endo comes in, and I think the best Endo role of all time, that should be his role. I've been saying it for months over there. And, we go back to our regular settings, basically everybody in their own spots. When we want to go attacking, he almost puts it's almost like FIFA. He puts like the higher attacking rate guys in those places. So we have like more, people who can change the game, I guess, on the pitch. But yeah, I think we're seeing, you can be concerned about, why we come out like this in first half in certain games. But I think we didn't know this going into the season. And I don't even know how many of us are still fully convinced, but we can see changes being made in the game. Like either like changing the personnel or, like going from today within a game with like some minimal tweaks and stuff like that. I do like seeing that. It's not about, if we do what we do better, we're gonna win. Sometimes you need to change certain things, whether it's like tactics, whether it's a player or whatever like that. He's not too shy to do that, and certainly has paid off. In most cases, the changes he's made has actually made an impact in the score, and obviously, the record shows it.
Sir Z, we'll come back to you on this one. Obviously, the second half, the whole thing gets started. We look much better coming out of it. We have to make the forced substitution of Konate based on the injury. We haven't gotten notification whether it was shoulder, hand. Looks like there was some mixed messaging. It looked to me like he was using his shirt as a sling, which would make you think maybe he jarred his shoulder. But then there were other people saying it was really just to cover the blood because Van Dijk had stepped on the hand. So I don't think we'll know. What I do know is if I'm Kwanzaa, I don't feel great. But after seeing Joe Gomez's performance, I might not feel great if I'm Konate, because that was Joe Gomez turning the clock back to the championship year, in my opinion, where we actually questioned at times, is he the better 1v1 defender? Like, which of the 1 in 1A? Because to me, at that time, pre-England injury, I think he was England's best center back and the best overall partner I ever saw Van Dijk have, even with Matip and now Konate. How big was this for Joe Gomez himself to have this type of performance and to do it in front of the home crowd, on a tough afternoon?
Yeah, no, it was huge. It was huge. And he played like he had a point to prove. Because I think previously, maybe Kwanzaa would have taken his spot and he would have come on. So him coming on, he was just a monster. And he was unlucky not to score. If he'd have scored, that's it. It just would have been perfect.
The roof comes off the building.
Oh, yeah.
The roof that isn't there.
Yeah.
It explodes.
This is done. And that's the only thing that, that didn't cap a perfect performance from him. Like everything, he was just there. And his tackles were on point. He was, he did the opposite of everything, like to what we kind of became accustomed to, where he kind of loses concentration sometimes. It was just, like I said, it was just a throwback to pre-England injury when, him and Van Dijk were, the best partnership probably in Europe.
Ryan says Gomez was incredible. Couldn't agree more. So Z, I know you got to run soon. So when it is time for you to bounce,
the party is back on, huh?
Have a great birthday. Right. I hope your wife didn't cancel the reservation. She probably knows well enough to know, we can still cancel that resi no matter what. But for now, hopefully that table's still ready for you, and you can keep the blood pressure medicine in the cabinet so well until tomorrow morning's morning show when you get pissed off at something or Monday night when you disagree with something I say. Happy birthday,
guys.
buddy.
Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Honestly, if you're Serzi's wife, you probably don't even cancel that anyway, right? You just
already know.
He'll come around. Okay.
Yeah, he's coming. He's coming either way because she's not cooking him anything. She's like, "You're not eating. I'm not making you food." That's what my wife would be like. Hey, that's fine if you're up for the putting a candle in the hot pocket, but if you want yourself a good just actual meal, you're gonna have to go out there and cook it yourself, or we're gonna have to go out to eat. So suck it up. But I will say, my wife understands. Kelly knows as well. Tamuchin, you met her when she was in Chicago. She jokes all the time. She doesn't even watch matches with me half the time anymore. She sits upstairs in bed and watches upstairs with the mindset of this is going to dictate what the afternoon is like. Because I'm either coming upstairs crushing cans and just being pissed off, or I'm coming upstairs like, let's celebrate and go out and have fun and do this and that. And I love when she's like, we should go Christmas shopping. And I'm like, did you see the fucking results? I'm not going Christmas shopping. Do you know what I will do to that kid at the mall? Do you know what I'm going to scream at that woman at Walmart or wherever the fuck you bring me, you crazy ass? Speaking of that, that's where Kelly is right now, actually. She's Christmas shopping in Western New York with my in-laws.
Kelly, dude, it's November 2nd. Christmas shopping?
She's one of those people, man. She gets pissed off because my family doesn't draw the names until Thanksgiving because she's done shopping by Thanksgiving. Like she's one of those people. I give her credit. It also means that I get to see it now because we got an entire room of cardboard boxes, and because she just orders everything online and gets things ahead of time. So I give her credit. She's a great shopper, and she makes it so that I don't have to buy any bleeping gifts.
See, that's the beauty of it. Yes, Angie arranges all this kind of stuff. I throw out a couple of ideas and take full credit when it's open.
100%.
From that, it's just
Yep.
I just come up with the ideas. Yeah.
So Ryan says my mom starts in August. It's a sickness.
August?
That is kind of a sickness. August feels a little early for me, but then again, you know, I don't.
You mean shopping on Christmas? You mean shopping on Christmas Eve is too late?
It's kind of always been my style. I was usually that guy.
I understand.
It's an opportunity to allow them to give you every last second to tell you what they actually want. Instead of me guessing for weeks and weeks. The truth is,
you always have a couple of stores, right? Where if you get stuck, you just break glass and go into that store because whatever you get there is going to go.
Correct. So, speaking of break glass, when we were down 1-0, I don't know where that sound came from, but we were down 1-0 earlier. Obviously, the Gakpo cross that turns into a goal. Nunes just misses. Nunes mistimes it, or he knows he can't get the header on frame and kind of because he looks like he almost does it on purpose. He never tries to claim the goal. He points right at Gakpo right away and runs to celebrate with him. Was that just Nunes being Nunes and just being a little chaotically awkward? He had a great match. It's not a criticism of him, but what was that in your mind, Timuchin? Because all I said was get bleeping in and was just waiting for 1,000 Discord messages, then waiting for someone to be like, is Nunes offside?
Yeah, that was actually what I was mainly worried about. I'm it's funny that you come to me because you know what Shelton's answer is going to be. No, no.
Thursday night thing.
I don't think he let it go. I think he knew he didn't make contact, and that's why he's running to Gakpo. But his presence over there, I mean, that's the whole point of that curving that ball in, right? So if nobody touches it, it's still on target. So, I don't think he did it on purpose, but his presence, obviously, and him going to the ball is what makes the goal. I actually thought initially when I saw it, it went off of the defender.
I was wondering if it was an own goal.
I thought it was an own goal. But when you watch it on replay, it doesn't look like it touched it. So I think Gakpo ended up getting the goal. But I don't think he lets it go. I thought Nunes had a good game. Couple of Nunes moments where he ran to where Gakpo was, and then he ran on to, I can't remember, that was Mo maybe or Diaz, ran on to where they were. I was like, dude, what are you doing? But his off the ball work, and I thought he was throughout he had a solid game. If Shelton says Nunes had a good game, then we know we're in good shape.
I think he didn't have a bad game. I think he threw Verge off on that one where Verge should have scored. I think he threw him off on that one right there. Yeah, other than that right there, I think he did what he had to do. I mean, I said during a pre-match, I criticized Nunes for a lot of things right there, but I think if he's getting what Slot wants him to do on the pitch, I can't criticize him but so much. I do think as a number 9, you should be scoring more goals and getting shots on target. But other than that, he's actually didn't play. He's took his opportunity pretty well with Jota's injury.
Yeah, I thought he played really well. Yeah. I don't know where the feedback's coming from, but I thought he played really well. I thought he also did a great job. Excuse me. His off the ball work is always good, but I thought he pressed well in this match. And this is to your point, Timuchin. You've been banging on it for a bit now. He's figuring out what's being asked of him. And you can just tell this system, whatever is being asked of him, is either it's easier for him to digest it and understand it, or it's different than what Klopp was asking him to do because he fits better, it seems to me. Now, I also think, to your point about him running into areas he shouldn't, I do believe that at times him and Diaz are both too helter-skelter to actually be functional together. And I think he looks better with Gakpo. And I really think he looks a much more solid force. And I think this front three, in my opinion, is the most technical and fully firing and clicking is the best front three we have, in my opinion, to start big matches. And I don't think it's for every match, but I just really like what I saw from Gakpo and Nunes today. And I thought it looked good even when Diaz came in and Gakpo dropped in. But I have to say, and we're going to get to Drunk Vigo, love your name, it's comments here in a second because I do want to talk more about McAllister. But I don't think we should go to the negative side of McAllister without talking about the brilliance of Mo in that second half. I know he has the terrible touch.
I was going to say, you weren't saying that when you missed that one.
I know he had the terrible touch, but as good as the goal is, I'd argue that that no sight ball on the counter to Jones,
yes,
is as good as anything that happened all match long. And that's what Mo Salah brings to you. And you made a comment too about like the littlest big man number 9 hold up play you'll ever see. There is not a stronger player. So to Kazi's point and all the people about write the man a blank check, I get it. Physically, he doesn't look like another 33-year-old, but I'll go to you on this one, Tim. Are performances like this, do they actually make it more likely he resigns? And I know you think he does, or more likely that it becomes harder to get him to resign because a PSG or a Saudi team or somebody comes in with a $500K a week salary and a multi-year deal, maybe that we're not willing to go to, even at the top form that he's in?
I think it makes it a lot more likely that he will resign. One, he's getting more and more numbers, so he's getting closer and closer to these records that he can break as a Premier League player, as a Liverpool player. And I think a guy like Mo, we know Mo, that stuff means stuff to him. Not to every player, but that stuff means a lot to him. So we know that's almost going to be an incentive for him to stay in the Premier League at Liverpool, because if he knows 20 more goals, I got this. I think that's an incentive for one. Two, I think success and seeing this team and being more the focal point. I mean, that's why when I said like he's the smallest number 9, that's like, look at what he does in the second half, the last 25, 30 minutes. How many free kicks he earns by holding up the ball, releasing the pressure, pushing us up the field and stuff like that. He is very, very pivotal to everything we do. And I think he likes that. He likes having that role and kind of like I mean, he had a ball in the first half. Was that the Soboslai as well? I mean, that was another, like a great ball. I mean, he creates everything. If you look at our passing charts, everything is going to Mo. I mean, and then that isolates the left wing. But if you look, all the arrows are going towards Mo, and he's the one distributing it. I think it makes it a lot more likely. The success, his own success, because I never considered PSG as a threat, because I don't think Mo is that kind of guy who's going to take the money to go there. If anywhere, I think he would go to like the Saudi Arabia or whatever and be the face and be the man, because I think that's what he wants. But I think, if that's always there for him. We talked about this before. That's there in 2 years. That's there in 3 years. When Mo shows up, everybody, in that side of the world is going to be ecstatic anyway. It's going to be like Messi coming here, like rolled up in a wheelchair in Miami. Like, it's the same thing, right? So he's going to go over there and going to get that either way. I think it makes it more and more likely he'll stay, as long as our offer is not too insulting, like asking him to take a pay cut or something like that. I really think Mo stays. Maybe this is me being optimistic, but
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I just feel like there's a good chance. And I actually think I think PSG makes a lot of sense for all the reasons you say, which is it allows him more time in Europe playing at a top club in a bigger league, scoring European goals and not doing it under the dredges of the English Premier League. And I think he would be absolutely protected there. I also think there is something that, Messi tried to do it. Neymar tried to do it. Zlatan tried to do it. Like, so many of these players have tried to, hell, freaking Beckham tried to do it. So many of these players have tried to go to PSG and win them the big trophy.
Yep.
And it wouldn't be a bad end to your European career to go win a few more scoring titles in France, a few more league medals in France, and then put that big ear trophy on their mantle and be the focal point. And they are going to spend that Mbappe money somewhere eventually. So it makes me a little nervous. But I do think that most likely Mo resigns. I just have this gut feeling that it's getting later and later, and he looks almost like a player who's playing free because he knows it might be the last year and he's going to take in every big moment and every big success. But I'm hoping, to your point, the success of this side and how much he likes being part of it. Let's just be real. He looked like a guy that if Jurgen Klopp was coming back this year would have asked not to be back. They didn't look like they were getting on. And it looks like he doesn't look like Mane looked in his walk year, where it was clear Mane was leaving at the end of that season, even though we were going for 4 trophies and trying to win everything. It was like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm good.
He looks like he feels more appreciated. Maybe this is psychological and we're winning, so we're seeing all positives, but he looks like a guy who's happier.
Very clean mentally, very much cleaner mentally than last year.
I also think he looks he looks much cleaner on that hair too, man. That hair is coming in sweet. He had a weekend trip to Turkey or 2 over the offseason. I'll tell you that right now. Wednesday, midweek, big match. Leverkusen coming in. I think it's Wednesday, right?
I think
or
so.
Tuesday, whichever one it is. Obviously, Leverkusen comes to town. Brian, you expect moderate rotation, the exact same lineup, barring obviously probably Gomez for Konate, Robertson back in. What do you think we see for that Leverkusen matchup? And how big is it that Xabi Alonso's in the dugout of the other team?
I mean, it's kind of big with Xabi Alonso coming back, especially with the whole links and stuff like that last toward last year. What is he going to come? Is he not going to come? But I really think that I think that we're perfectly what we got right now. I think the slot is kind of like that. People say he's a third choice. Maybe he wasn't a third choice. Maybe he was a person to level out this ship. From the chaotic couple of years that we had with Klopp. But as far as like the lineup goes, I expected Jones to play to be on the starting 11 with McAllister on the bench, because I think McAllister looked really gassed in that match, and I think that he needs some time right there. And maybe bring him in later toward the match right there, looking forward to the Villa match, or just leaving him, let them sit and rest. I think that Roberts is going to come back into the side, definitely. I can see him coming back in, even though Simicast had a great match. I think that you have to kind of have somewhat of a rotation, and hopefully Konate is good news. But I think that what Gomez did in that match right there today, was pretty brilliant. So I would not be shy away from having him in that side. But other than that, right there, I think that we're probably going to see pretty much the same lineup. I could probably see Diaz come in for Gapco. I mean, maybe right through there. That'd be the only biggest change I can really see in this side. I think that you kind of have to go with Szoboszlai now, just because of the running that he gives there. Even though I'm a critic of him sometimes, but he stretches side. So I think that you have to have him in there. We tried the Jones experiment; it just didn't work right. I mean, with him. And as much as I thought that Harvey would be the answer in that spot, I don't think Harvey would be the answer in that spot either. Because I think you have to have somebody there to keep their defense at odds, and I think Szoboszlai does that work right. But yeah, so I think that pretty much just a little bit of rotation, but not very much. I mean, I think that, and then when we get to Villa, I expect us to be full strength against Villa.
Tim, I'm sure we'll get to a bunch of it tomorrow night on the Monday pod. It's regarding what we think for lineups and such, but I'll just kind of close it out with you on this, like overall thoughts of the match. And as we get ready for this match come Wednesday with, Leverkusen, isn't this we all talked about I know people were like, oh, Amorim taking the United job is ludicrous. You don't do that. And we were all like, sometimes you just got to take these jobs when they're offered to you because they don't get offered again. Is it already, as they, are talking in Germany, that they're super critical of how Leverkusen has started this season? Isn't this a telltale sign to why managers? I mean, they're 7 points off, almost 10 points off of the lead. They could be as far as 9 points off after today to RB Leipzig. Bayern looks like they've rebounded. Eintracht Frankfurt's playing really well. Isn't this a sign of like strike while the iron's hot, and maybe you don't look that gift horse in the mouth? And I'm sick of hearing Arne Slot was the third candidate, because I've never heard Liverpool say that Amorim was their number one candidate or Xabi was the number one candidate. All I've heard is these guys turned down Liverpool, which is being said by reporters outside of it. So how much of this is just paper talk, and how important do you think it is to the supporters that Xabi comes back and that they rally around this side? Because I don't think they want to see him celebrating a victory at Anfield anytime soon.
No,
much as
I don't know. I don't think, people did not take, especially the Xavi Alonso thing. I don't think it was taken as a negative when he didn't want to come. It was like, oh, he has success there. He wants to continue it. And he kind of like, I think he did it right. Like, you compare the two, he did it the right way. He said, no, I'm staying over here, took himself out of contention. That's fine. Whereas the other guy went to West Ham and, was like, everybody wants me. And then like, oh, nobody wants me. So I think it's like two different, like, I think when Emery comes in, I think it will be a different approach than Xavi coming over. Not to mention Xavi is like an ex-player. Obviously, he has that going for him. He won't be, I don't think he would be disrespectful to the Anfield crowd and stuff like that too, and things go his way. I think, yeah, I mean, we talked about this, I think, on like Friday. I mean, sometimes, as a manager, you got to take, if you're one of these, I don't want to say like little guys, but like, you're like, this is your opportunity to get like the big contract. You can't be like, I don't know if I like that situation. You're going to have to roll the dice and get the most out of it, because it might not come in again, because sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle and then it turns out that, I mean, look at Stevie, for example, who I never wanted as a coach, because I hate ex-players that coaches, first of all. I think it just kind of like affects how people view things. But I mean, look at that. Initially there was like, oh, yes, look at Rangers, look at that and stuff like that. And then, lightning in a bottle. If he came to Liverpool then, that was the time, because when he went to Villa, then it totally flopped. And obviously he's kind of almost like semi-disappeared. Because he's a legend, he might get a shot down the road or something like that. Like coming as the interim to save the season kind of a deal or something. Shelton doesn't even want that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's like the biggest thing. I don't know. I honestly, man, after today, I don't care as much about Tuesday. The fact that they played yesterday, I was just checking that. So the game is on Tuesday. Leverkusen played yesterday. So they're going to have an extra day off. So you rotate. I think this is a great game to bring Endo and stuff in, because honestly, this game, the Madrid game, I don't think, I mean, I never once, let's get a draw, but I don't think like getting a points is not a bad deal out of these games. I put more value in getting everybody rested and getting 3 points against Villa. This thing could be there for the taking. You already won your first games in the Champions League. You're gonna keep going on the Champions League. I feel like you focus on the Premier League right now. Yes, I can't wait for Mihaly in the morning show.
For anyone who wasn't watching yesterday's morning show, Anand was high on the idea of signing Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth. He then went out and got 2 assists.
I did not even know who Kerkez was, man. Like Mihaly was really high on it because he wanted to get like another Hungarian. Anand is only big on Szoboszlai. That's about it.
Yeah. But I will say I had talked about the Kerkez guy a few times. We'll get into the transfers. I think it does make a ton of sense. 20 years old, international level quality player. Came from the Dutch league, so Slot has some experience watching him play. Supposedly was interested in signing the player before he went to Bournemouth. And of course, he's a Richard Hughes signing at Bournemouth, so it makes sense why we might be high on the player as well. Also links with Semenyo, which is funny because, well, he's probably the best player that Richard Hughes bought at Bournemouth, outside of, fleecing, helping them get extra money from Tottenham in the buy-on clauses for Solanke, who's not exactly firing. So tomorrow, big matches tomorrow, Chelsea United and, of course, Villa Spurs. Crazy to think that if Chelsea and Spurs win, Arsenal will wake up in 5th or 6th position in the table.
That's crazy.
That is kind of crazy. How big are those? And what I'm going to ask you both right now for your score prediction. Does Man United get the bounce with Ruud managing and go to Stamford Bridge and shock and get a result? Or does Chelsea continue their positive play at home? Brian, I'll start with you. Score prediction.
I really think it's. I think you're looking at.
Sorry,
it's at Old Trafford. Yeah.
Oh, then I can see that being the case. I'm sorry, I missed that one.
I mean, I really think that you're looking at probably a draw. I mean, on that right there, Chelsea's too very inconsistent right there. I mean, one week they look like world beaters, the next week they look like they're beating themselves. But I can see a 2-2 draw. I think that this rebound right there with Ruud right there is still happening, and I think that it's all mentality with them, and I think that they were at their ends with the last manager, and I just think that they just couldn't get along with them toward the end. And you see how those last matches they stopped playing. I think they're playing for one of their own now, so it changes your mentality right there. I know the ex-player thing, but I think that that Rude is a little bit different right there because he's a striker. Because he being a former forward, he could probably get these guys back scoring again right there. But I think a draw on that one and the Villa and Spurs match. I think that again, two sides right there who are kind of inconsistent. I'm going for a draw on both these matches, honestly.
Tim, what about you when it comes to United, Chelsea? What are you expecting tomorrow, other than pain for your brother?
Yeah, I'm hoping for pain for my brother. I'm thinking like a draw as well, or I can see Chelsea getting this out. I think they're making it was Leicester City, people. So let's calm the hell down. I mean, I don't think they're like, oh, Ten Hag is gone. Now they're playing great. They played Leicester City, so at home. So it was always going to be like a good result for them. I think that if you put money on that one in any game, that was the game. But Chelsea has a lot of players that can cause United's problems. And I don't care what Ruud does. I don't care what Amarim does. That defense is not going to magically become a lot better and not get faster to keep up with guys like, Neto or whoever he plays, really. They got a bunch of fast guys up top that I don't think United can keep up with. I see more like I think Ryan had like a 3-1 deal. I see something like that, like a 3-2 or something like that. And if Chelsea can't score, maybe Jackson gets one of those games where he misses everything, then he will be like a draw. But
Ryan said 3-1. Anand says 4-1, and he needs a Palmer Hattie for his fantasy team. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I have the sneaky suspicion, because this is what United does, because they have that level of dog of a player, especially their big players. Like tomorrow could be the day where Bruno gets a brace and has an assist and sets Højlund up, or Rashford decides he's playing football again and smiles and looks like he cares and is excited and engaged. I also think that when Chelsea travel away from Stamford Bridge, and that's why I thought the match was in Chelsea, but when they travel, they get away from what really makes them special. And we saw that at Liverpool, because Palmer can't dictate all the play off the ball. And I think at times that hurts them. So it'll be interesting to see, does he go with the Caicedo, Lavia midfield too? Also, what's that back four look like for Chelsea, which has been up and down? And I think both keepers have a mistake in them. So I'm going to go for like an entertaining score draw. So it'll probably be 2-2, which means it'll probably end 4-0 Chelsea, because I'll
be honest. I know we enjoy United misery, but this is not a bad time for them to kind of pick themselves up before they play City.
It'd be a nice win, to be honest.
Yeah,
it would be a good win, and then they get Arsenal in a couple weeks. Like there's. I'm not worried about United challenging for the title, and what United are good at are showing up for a random ass Saturday or Sunday afternoon. So. Speaking of showing up, thank you all for showing up to today's post-match show. Thanks for being on the pre-match. If you haven't already, I don't know what's wrong with you, get to the YouTube page, smash the like button, give it a subscription. We're up to over 955 or 960 subscribers.
956. The chase.
We are really trying hard to get to 1,000. We could use your help. So, as Muchin likes to say, grab a friend, drag them over, have them like it, share it with your friends, share it with your family. Hell, share it with people you don't like that you want to put through the misery of listening to us. But in all seriousness, we appreciate everything. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Monday morning show, Monday night pod, the Thursday night pod. We have the panel show on Tuesday nights, which is a really great watch. If you're not watching it, it's funny, it's entertaining, and you get a little bit of a perspective outside of just Liverpool from this channel, as well as our recorded Premier League show that we release Tuesday or Wednesday, and some of our short segmented videos. So please interact with those on social media if you can. Give them a like and a share, hell, even a comment. And we'll be back Tuesday, hopefully, for the pre and post match for the Champions League. But until Monday morning, we'll just leave you with this. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll talk.